everybody. Welcome back to LWN Network. I am your host of Headline Hits, Tammy Nation. Thanks for joining me this Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. We've got a lot of headlines to get into this afternoon or morning, depending on where you're at. But I want to give a quick shout out to all of you new subscribers, and thank you for sharing and following us. A big shout out to one of our new subscribers, Jimmy from Idaho. Thanks for joining us. And another shout out to Chase and Carlene, who are in the chat to make the chat feel friendly. Welcome. You guys be at home here at LWN Network. That's what we want it to be, a place where you can have intelligent conversations, even if we don't all agree. So thank you to those two as well. We're going to go ahead and head off to this headline hits, you guys, because there is a lot to talk about today. We're going to start off with Apple investing more money into the U.S. They've announced in a press release that they will include $500 billion commitment to infrastructure in the U.S. over 4 years. It is the largest commitment to domestic spending to date. Apple said it's going to expand teams and facilities in Arizona, California, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Oregon, and Texas, as well as Washington as part of its new spending. With the new facility in Houston, Texas, Apple will double its investments in advanced manufacturing, along with increasing investments in AI and silicon engineering. The company said that the Houston facility will produce servers to support Apple Intelligence, the personal intelligence system that helps users write, express themselves, and get things done. The company is going to increase supply management throughout all 50 states and increase employment in data centers, AI infrastructure, and Apple TV Plus production in 20 states. We are bullish on the future of American innovation, and we are proud to build on our long-standing U.S. investments with this $500 billion commitment to our country's future, CEO Tim Cook had stated. Along with Apple, Microsoft announced plans in January to spend $80 million in AI centers in 2025. CFO Amy Hood revealing that the company has been short on power and space. Microsoft was one of the many companies in 2024 to announce investments in nuclear engineering to power data centers and AI projects. So the need for direct sources of energy to power these campuses has become an arms race for Microsoft, as well as for brands like Amazon and Oracle. In fact, Texas Governor Greg Abbott procured a report for possible small modular reactors in his state in hopes of bringing over $50 billion in new economic output to Texas, Virginia, and Maryland, which also have become popular site for SMRs and self-sustaining commercial campuses. In Apple's press release, the company stated it's one of the largest taxpayers in the United States, having paid more than $75 billion in U.S. taxes over the past 5 years, including $19 billion in 2024 alone. Next up, we have something that is kind of a history lesson a bit and is timely in the news article concerning Ukraine. I found a video of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stating back in the Biden administration that the Ukraine war is a money laundering scheme. And I thought it was really important to have some backstory of what has been going on between them and us during the Biden administration, and why President Trump is trying to make peace and be fair to we the people of America. RFKjr says this is a war that should have never happened. It is a war on Russians it's a war that Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms. They were very, very beneficial to the U.S. and Ukraine. The major thing they wanted was for us to keep NATO out of Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. And why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to the NATO weapons specifications, which means certain companies like Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed get a travel market. In March 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for every single homeless person in this country. When we then committed another $24 billion since that 2 months ago, and now Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big expenses are going to come after the war. And that's why it's important, you guys, we understand the history to this. This was during the Biden administration. And RFK Jr. stating the big expenses come after the war. He says we have to rebuild all the things that we destroy. And Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford $113 billion to Ukraine? And he said, don't worry, it's not really going to Ukraine. It's going to American defense manufacturers. So he just admitted it as a money laundering scheme. And do you think that who owns all of those companies? Who do you think that is? BlackRock. Jim Scott, during the Republican debate, if you remember, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. And do you really think this is a loan that is going to be paid back, you guys? No. So why do they call it a loan? What's the reasoning? Well, then they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions we impose? Number one, extreme austerity program. So if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to stay poor in Ukraine forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale in multinational corporations, including all its agricultural land, and that's the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land as the richest farmland the world and as the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids, almost all Ukrainians, have died to keep that land. They most certainly did not know about this loan condition, RFK Jr. was saying. They've already sold 30% of them, and the buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden at the time gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they are doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore because they know that they can get away with it. And how they can do that is because they have the strategy. And strategy is an old strategy, which they keep us hating each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, black against white, and all these divisions. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is part of the backstory on what's going on right now, why Trump is doing what he's doing, trying to settle it. He's trying to eliminate all these money-making machines and divisions and BlackRock owning everything and trying to bring things back to the American people and settle things down out there in the country. They do not want to give up power and control. They've had it for a long time, and that's where RFK Jr. came out and stated this a while ago, and that's where we are now. We're trying to undo everything that last administration and even administrations before that have done. Next up, this is kind of sensitive subject and topics, but we need to talk about this because a Fox News article showed the results of a study for people 18 and over with gender dysphoria. New research from the University of Texas shows that all the justifications for dissecting body parts on people and children were lies. Analyzation of more than 100,000 patients with gender dysphoria were looked at, and the outcomes for those who received surgery versus those who didn't. The results: depression, anxiety, suicidal feelings, and drug abuse were all significantly higher for those who received surgery compared to those who did not. Treating gender dysphoria with sex change surgery was linked with drastically worse mental health outcomes. Transgender individuals face heightened psychological distress, including depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, partially due to stigma and the lack of gender affirmation, as stated in the study, which was published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine. The study focused on 107,583 patients 18 and over with gender dysphoria, some who underwent surgery and others who did not. They determined rates of depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues were significantly higher among those who went surgery and underwent surgery, as they were assessed 2 years later. Males with the surgery had depression rates of 25% compared to males without surgery at 11.5%. And the same differences were seen among females, as those with surgery had a 22.9% depression rate compared to 14.6% in the non-surgical group. The surgeries aimed to feminize individuals showed particularly high rates of depression and substance abuse 2 years later after the procedure. The study findings also just suggest the necessity for gender-sensitive mental health support following gender-affirming surgery to address post-surgical psychological risk, researchers wrote. So it was really not just a cure-all for the mental health challenges that many of the transgender individuals face, everyone. Jonathan Alpert is a Manhattan-based psychotherapist and author, and he said the study findings highlight the often overlooked psychological risks that accompany gender-affirming surgery. So when we say that we need to make sure we pay attention to the decisions we make and people have choices, that is so true. And when it's trying to be crammed down our throat that we are bad because we question anything, this study shows that that is not an effort true at all. As we carry on here, we found out that a cyber attack happened on X and it shut it down yesterday. And Elon says the IP addresses connected to it originated from Ukraine. He says he isn't sure what exactly happened yet, but that they wanted to bring down the X system. He says, stating the attacks happen every single day, but this one was done with a lot of resources, a large coordinated group, and or a country involved. And we know Elon's faced a lot of attacks since heading up Doge with protests against Doge. Then the Tesla stores were attacked, and now they're attacking X. So we have to use our logical thinking minds and wonder why that is. Who is doing this and why? What do they have to gain? Next up, the Trump administration has created a registry for all people who are in the United States illegally, and those who don't self-report could face fines or prosecution. Immigrations announced this last week. On its website, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, on the main page, there's a place to go that says how to comply with the alien registration requirement. DHS is implementing an alien registration system as directed by President Trump. You can learn who this affects and how to register, and then you hit Learn the More button. So basically, this is very easy, very simple to register, and there's no reason not to. Obviously, they don't want to be found out, these illegals, but everyone who is in the U.S. illegally must register. They must give fingerprints and provide an address to the Department of Homeland Security. And it cited a section of the Immigration and Nationality Act. The immigration law is what it is justification for the registration process. And this is going to apply, you guys, to anyone 14 years and older. The announcement came as the administration seeks to make good on campaign promises to carry out mass deportations of people in the country illegally and seal the border to future asylum seekers. An alien's future or failure to register is a crime that could result in a fine, imprisonment, or both, the statement had said, and for decades, this law has been ignored. Not anymore. So once again, this law has been on the books. It has been ignored by administrations, and the Trump administration said, not anymore. We're not ignoring it. We're going to apply it. This is breaking news just in. President Trump has just responded on his Truth Social account to the threat from Ontario, Canada. Yesterday, one of the ministers threatening states of New York, Minnesota, and Michigan, they sell electricity in these three states, and he said we are going to crank up the tariffs on everybody living there. So Trump said a response. He put it on Truth Social. In part, it states, based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff on 50% total in all. And it's going to apply to steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada. He stated that Canada is one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. And he said this is going to go into effect, this 50% tariff on all Canadian aluminum and steel coming into the U.S. tomorrow morning, March 12th. So he's all in with this. He's fighting back. There was that threat yesterday from one of the ministers for some of our states, and Trump isn't having it. He's paying attention. He's taking care of stuff immediately. Also, a big vote later today, you guys, heads up for the Republicans on this continuing resolution to keep the government open. They do believe they have the votes, but Vice President J.D. Vance is also on deck in there to be the mediator between the White House and the Capitol on the spending bill vote. Speaker Johnson just came out in a presser before I went on the air saying that they are going to try to shut the government down, and we've talked about that in the first 100 days. That's what they want to do. He said every House Democrat will participate in this. You'll see one team is working to fund the government, and then you're going to see another opposing the CR. So all hands on deck later today for this big vote so we can see what's going to happen. And then we're going to end this on a very happy, good thing. If you need to remember this name, if you don't know it already, Sean Curran. He is officially now the new director of Secret Service. He was sworn in yesterday by Kristi Noem. And if you guys remember, or if you don't, let me familiarize you with him. He is the one who protected President Trump at the Butler rally in Pennsylvania when shots rang out. He was the one that had his arm around him, sunglasses on, short hair. Sean is also the man who gave the honorary Secret Service badge to 13-year-old DJ Daniels during President Trump's joint address to Congress last week. So I think that is wonderful, well-deserved. He's already proven himself, and I think that is an amazing thing. There is so much going on each and every day, and I say it all the time, you guys, that trying to pick out what to talk about when is a big task because things are hitting. Even though you have stuff prepared out, just before I went on, all these other things broke that I had to put into the newscast, but that's what I like. I want to make sure that you guys know here at LWN Network, we do our best to keep you guys up to date on the latest information, accurate information, truthful information. Not all opinions are one-sided. What is actually going on out there in the world so you can be better informed, you have better knowledge, and we can share all this in our conversations together while the news is on in the chat. So thank you guys very much. That's what I have for you today, Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. I will be back here tomorrow, Wednesday, to give you guys another version of Headline Hits here on the LWN Network. Please remember before you exit out here to like and share and subscribe to this channel. Once again, thank you so very much for joining me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.